kids and get to meet them that way. But it's been a tremendous year at the orphanage, and we're excited about what God is doing. And amongst everything else that we're doing there, this year we actually built a brand new shop that we built that we can teach them carpentry and some other things. And that building now is almost completely done, and we just have left just to paint the inside and outside of the building, and it'll be completely done, and we're excited about that, so we can be able to teach the kids other things besides just Bible, and which we do, of course, and other things, but it's a way that we can teach them skills and other things that they could use maybe when it's time for them to leave the orphanage. Also this year we built chicken coops and pig pens. Now that doesn't seem like it's so glamorous, but we're excited about our little farm that we get going on there. We were before this. We were actually, it was costing us about $20 a week just for eggs. So we were trying to find a way that we could eliminate some of that cost, and so we got the idea. Well, why don't we just raise our own eggs? And so we built this little chicken coop, and we got hens in there, and they are doing a great job every day laying eggs for us. And in fact, they're doing so well. And I told the guy that helps me with them, I said, be a cheerleader. Go out there every morning and just commend them and just talk good about them and things. And they're producing enough eggs now that we have enough for our own personal use. And we're selling about $10 worth of eggs a week to outsiders from there, which helps us to pay for their chicken feed. And so we're excited about that. We're also raising some chickens that we use to butcher and to have there. And we probably let them go a little longer than what we should go. By the time that we actually butcher them, because it's hard when you raise a chicken to take them and butcher them. But anyway. And so by the time we get to where we know that we got to do it, their bellies are actually dragging the ground. And so somewhere on my laptop I have some pictures of some chickens that we were butchering. But it is helping. It's a way that the kids enjoy it and working with the animals. And it is also helping to meet some of the expenses of the children's home. We have some pigs there that right now we have 7 pigs, and we're waiting for the day that we'll have little pigs that will be growing up there. That there'll be 2 things again. Some of them we'll sell to help with the expense of the pig feed, and some of them we'll butcher for our own personal use. And the kids get out there, we wash them every day. They're pigs down every day. They're on a concrete floor and block walls, and every day we wash that down and wash the pigs. And sometimes when it's really hot, twice a day. And so that keeps the smell down. You can actually be on site right up next to them, and you can just barely detect a scent of the smell of having a pig farm. And so we're doing that, and that's going well. And like I said, I'm just waiting now to have some little pigs come along so that we can start covering some of our expenses of that. But it's just some of the ways that we're using to help cover some of the expenses and meet some of the expenses, and also teach the kids something that they can use. And so they love it, and we love it, and I like selling the eggs, and it's a really neat way. So we're excited about that. And like I said, we built that new building for our workshop, and we're excited about that. And right now we're having to use it as a church because last year when I was here, they broke into our church and stole the equipment out of the church, stole the air conditioning out of the church, stole the electrical wiring out of the church, went and clipped all the wires and pulled all the wires out for the copper and sold all that, and knocked some of the doors down. And so we've been having church in our new workshop, and I can't wait to get home to get the church back together so that we can use the workshop for a workshop. But it's exciting working with the kids. We have just a few kids, and I think it's been God's wisdom that we've only started with a few kids. We are not working with just hardship cases. We only have really one hardship case, is the reason why that young boy is with us. The rest of the kids are with us because there has been something in the home that has been a reason that the state or somebody had to take that child out of the home and send them to us. And with that comes a lot of baggage. With that comes a lot of things. If I would tell you this morning some of the things some of these kids have gone through, you would not believe me. I guess many of you know my parents, and I grew up very protected, and I never knew. I mean, I have a loving family, loving parents, and I never imagined that kids go through today what these kids are going through. And we have one girl that, if you saw any of the kids on the screen, the first one that came up, she's 15 years old. When she came to us because her father had abused her when she was home multiple times when she was very young. And with that came a lot of problems, and you can imagine that now she's 15, and the problems that come along with that type of abuse. And God's been good to us. Like I said, maybe it's God's wisdom that we start with a few kids, because we're learning as we go on how to deal with some of these things that we're dealing with today. And we pray that God will use us to be able to minister to them. And I remember when there's two things when she came to us. She said, first thing she said, I have to stay here. They're making me stay here. But she said, I don't want to know anything about God. You see, she thought God let her down because of everything that she'd been through. She said, I don't want to know anything about God. Don't talk to me about God. I don't want to go to church. I don't want to. But today, she's actively involved in the church there that I pastor there in Padilla. And she's not 100%. I'm not going to tell you here today that she's 100%. But if you can see the change that has been brought about in this young girl's life, just by being there at the children's home, you would not, what family she does have, they said, we don't recognize her anymore. She's not the same girl that she was when she went there to be with you. We have another girl that, when she's also 15, when she came to us, she cut her fingers all the time. And we asked her, why do you cut your fingers all the time? She said, because the physical pain eases a lot of emotional pain that she was going through. She had been rejected by everybody that she had ever been involved with. Her family rejected her. Her own mother told her she was a parasite, that she would never be anything ever in her life. And on and on and on. Everybody that she had ever been with, they rejected her. And she came to us, and I decided she'd even been in another orphanage before she came to us. And it wasn't long, and they started treating her the same way that her family had treated her. And they came, the state brought her to us, and I determined, I said, we are not going to treat these kids like the rest of the world is treated them. We're going to be different, and they're going to have a place that they can come and feel like they're at home. And she's turning around, and the second thing the first girl said was, because I have a habit when I'm with the kids, and I eat with them, and I'm with them all the time. I call them, normally I don't call them by their name, I just call them son or daughter. And this girl, she said, don't call me daughter. I don't allow anybody to call me daughter. And so I said, okay. And I knew what was going on. And I said, all right. And so I quit calling her daughter. Well, about 3 months ago, I was with her. We were discussing something. And she said, by the way, Dad. And she almost in Spanish said, was going to call me Dad. And she said, why was I going to say that? I said, I don't know. Now she calls me Dad all the time. So we can see the changes that are coming about in these girls. And like I said, this other girl, she cut herself all the time because that was the only way that she could find that would ease some of the pain that she was going through emotionally in her own life. And she quit cutting herself. She doesn't cut herself anymore. And she's doing well in the children's home. She's doing well in school, and we thank God for what's going on in her life. Max, I maybe talked about Max last year when I was here. Max is a different kind of guy. He came to us when he was 12, and he was raised on the streets. Literally, at 12 years old, he was literally living on the streets. And so when he came to us, the only thing that he knew how to do was steal to be able to survive. If he was going to eat that day, he had to steal something to be able to either steal food or steal something that he could sell, that he could take that money and buy something that he could eat. And that's how Max, well, he came to us, and the state brought him to us, and we got him checked in, and we got him settled in and things, and that day we were busy doing some other things, and probably wasn't watching Max as close as we should have been. And at the end of the day, the social worker said it was going home, and she went and got her purse and found out Max had found her purse in a filing cabinet and stole all of her money out of her purse. And then Brother Bernardo, that was here last year with me, he invited me to, that same weekend, he invited me to his home for his birthday party. He said, will you come to my birthday party? I said, I can come, but I have to bring the whole crowd with me. And he said, that's fine, bring them all. Well, Max went with us to Brother Bernardo's birthday party. And I know you know where this is going. And so we're sitting in Brother Bernardo's home and enjoying the birthday party, and all of a sudden one of the other kids from the orphanage came in with a huge bag of money. And that was money that they were saving up to buy the new building. And Max had found, he went into their bedroom, went through their stuff. How he found it, I don't know, but he found this bag of money, and he went and hid the money outside so that if anybody was asking him where the money was while he was there, he said, I don't have any money on me. I didn't look at it. I don't have any money on me. And he had hid it outside, waiting for us to get back in the van to go home, and then he was going to get that money and take it with him. Now remember, that's the only way Max knew how to survive. Now it's not right, and we taught him that's not the way you do things, but that was the only way Max knew how to survive. And today, he no longer steals. When he finds money, he brings it to us. And he realized he didn't have to steal for everything he eat, that there's plenty of food that he has there to eat, and we're taking care of all of his needs, and he's turning around. Another thing that happened with Max is when he came to us, The state said he was 12 years old, he'd only been to the 2nd grade, and the state said that he has gone as far as he can possibly go. He does not have the capacity to do any farther than he is right now. He's 12 years old, he's only been to 2nd grade. He said he can't learn anymore, he can't do anymore, he just does not have the capacity to do anymore. Well, I just believe, I'm just stubborn enough, I guess. I don't know where I got that from, but I'm just stubborn enough that I just said that just can't be. I enrolled him in 3rd grade when he was with us, and he not only graduated from 3rd grade last year, but he graduated with 9s and 10s. On a scale of 10, of course, being the best. He graduated with 9s and 10s. He's enrolled this year in 4th grade, and he's doing well in 4th grade. And so it's exciting to see that God is working in their lives, and God is turning their lives around, and that even though the state psychiatrist said that there's no more that can be done for little Max, that God is working in his life, and he's turning his life around. And it's just exciting. I believe someday Max is going to be a little preacher. Hallelujah. And so that's exciting things that's happening there. Like I said, I believe that God had brought about, we just have just a few kids because we are learning a lot of things as we go back. When my dad had the orphanage, most all of his cases that he had, or all the cases that he had, were hardship cases. And in those cases, they didn't have a lot of baggage. All you had to do was provide a place for them to live and food for them to be able to send them to school and things like that. But they didn't have all this other stuff that he had to deal with at that time that we have to deal with today. And so I think God, in His mercy, is giving us just a few kids to start with so that we can learn how to deal with these cases and work with these kids. But it's exciting, like I said, to see how God is working in their lives and how God is teaching us as well how to deal with these cases. And it's exciting to see the workers are doing well. Just shortly before I left to come up on this trip, I had to hire some new my new staff. I had to replace and hire some new staff, and they're doing a tremendous job. Since I hired this new staff, something happened to me that has never happened to me before in Mexico. The lady there, I had to make a trip to McAllen for one day, and so I left some money with her when I was going to McAllen for this day, so that if anything came up while I was gone, she would have some money to take care of anything that would come up. And so I left her with money, and I went to McAllen, came back, and I was with them for about a week, and then I went to Monterey for a meeting I had to do in Monterey. I was going to be in Monterey for about a week. And so I went to her just before I left, and I said, I have some money I need to leave with you in case if something comes up while I'm gone that you need some money. She said, no, I have some money left over from the last time you left me money. I don't need any money. Now, that has never happened to me in 30 years of ministry. That has never happened to me before in Mexico. Normally, they would have spent that money and they would have welcomed anything else I could have brought to them. And that's not being critical, but if when you live in such poor conditions all the time, and they really have a hard time with the concept of handling finances. And so I've had the staff I had there last year when I was up there on this trip. Good people. They understand what I'm saying. They wasn't trying to do anything wrong, but they just didn't have. They felt like, well, this is a lot of money. We can do a lot of things. And while I was gone, they spent $4,500 while I was gone. And I'm sitting there just, how am I going to keep up with these guys? And like I said, they wasn't trying to do anything wrong. It was a great couple. I don't want you to think that they were trying to steal from me or they were trying to but they just had no concept on how to handle the finances. Because when I'm gone for a month or a month and a half and sometimes 2 months, they have to handle some money to be able to make all the ends meet. Well, I've been gone and on this trip, and I've been gone now for almost about a month and 2 or 3 weeks now, and only 2 times have I had to send money home. And before I was sending money every week. I was trying to get through Sunday, so I knew that I'd have an offering, and I knew Monday morning they was going to be calling me on the phone that I had to send some more money back. The lady that's there now is literally, I sent her money twice, and she, no, I got money, don't worry about it, just have fun, enjoy the convention. So God has brought together, what I'm trying to get to, God has brought together a neat staff that's working with us now. And she's brought some of our food expense down, and I think our food expense today is down since she started there, a third of what we were paying before in our food expense. And so I thank God for the staff that God's bringing to us that is working with us there. And I don't have a clock, I don't know how much time I have. $10 minutes? I'll try to do this in 10 minutes. I can really speak fast. Hallelujah. But anyway, I like to, when I come to share with about the ministry and things, I like to always leave with the word. I like to always at least come to the church, and I like to leave a word that you can take home with you. And as I travel through Mexico, and I see how people are hurting, and I see how people, even in the States when I travel, I see how people are going through a lot of different things in their lives, and even sometimes going back a second time and a third time, I see that people continue to go through some things and hurts and trials in their lives. And I ask God sometimes, why is this be when we have everything we need, we can find in Jesus Christ? Why is it that sometimes we just have to go through some things that we go through? And I was reading my office one day in the book of Joshua, and I'm going to go really fast. Chapter 6 and verses 1 through 5, I won't even take the time to read it. You can read it when you get home. But in these verses, in that chapter 6, I find 5 principles that we can live a life of victory. And you all know that the walls of Jericho were huge, and they were almost impenetrable. Naturally speaking, there was almost no way that they could penetrate through those walls, but we know the story, we know how God intervened in things. But in that story, I found 5 things that we can use to win the victory in everything that we fight, in every battle that we fight. First point I want to make to you today is that we always fight our battles from a position of victory. In that story that of the walls of Jericho, the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands." In other words, that the battle, before they even began the battle was already won. And he says, "See that I have given Jericho into your hands." And so the first thing that I want to tell you to say is that when we go into a battle, when we're fighting a battle, we need to fight from a position of victory. Hallelujah. And I'm trying to make this short, so I'm going to jump over a bunch of things that I would have liked to share with you. But what are some of the ways that we can fight from a position of victory? One of the ways that we can fight from a position of victory is to be in constant prayer. Now, I don't know about in the U.S., but I do know in Mexico that there's a lot of God-fearing people that love God with all their heart. They serve God with all their heart, but yet, because of all the things that they have to do every day, when they come to church, they come to the forward and they weep and they cry out before God and they ask God for help. And when they leave the church, they go home and they get busy with their lives and they forget that they need to pray every day of their lives. I don't know about you, but I found out that the day that I don't pray is the day that I struggle through some things that I wouldn't have to struggle through if I'd been in prayer. And so prayer is one of the most important things it's one of the weapons that we can use. If we want to stand in a position of victory, we need to be a people of prayer. One of the other things that we need to do is be in the Word and read the Word of God. Now, it seems like every Christian ought to know that. But again, people that I know, that I talk to, people that love God with all their heart, they go and get about and people are so busy today that when they go home, they forget that they need to study the Word of God every day. You know, in the Word of God, there is so many, if we would just read His Word, we would find answers, we would find promises that God's given us if we just took time to study His Word. Another way is to be living a holy life and believing what God told you. And I've got to tell this story, and I think I've told it here before, but just when we were about ready to start working on the orphanage, and I was up here raising money and trying to get money together to go back and take money back home to start building the orphanage. And I was right here at this church. And I spoke on that day and whatever, but I turned the service back over and the service was over with. And there was a lady that came to me at the end of the service. She says, "I have a word from the Lord from you." And I was expecting some great, powerful word, and I was just excited, and I wanted to hear what God wanted to tell me. And she said, "As soon as you get home, you're going to have a problem." I thought, wow, that's not what I wanted to hear. But she said, "But God is already aware of that problem, and He's going to take care of it for you." Now, I got to tell you, there was times when I had to draw from that word that she gave me. Now, I didn't have any idea what I was going to go through, but all the way home, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what I'm going to face when I get home. I wasn't home. I just pulled in. I wasn't home even 2 or 3 minutes when I knew what was going on, and I knew what I was going to have to face. There was a man there that would try to take that property from us and filed lawsuits against us and said that we had stole that property from him when Sister Rice knows that property was given to my father many in the 70s and had been in our family ever since. But he wanted that piece of property and he was going to do whatever it took. He had sons and daughters that were in government, and they were pulling every string that they could possibly pull to get that property taken from us. It was an impossible situation in the natural, but I remember times when it looked like things were going against us, but I remember looking back and I said, Lord, you promised me when I was at that church on a Sunday morning, you give me a word, and you told me that you were going to take care of it. Yes. Hallelujah. And I held on to that word for 2.5 years while that was going through the courts. I held on to that word. Hallelujah. And God gave me, just like He promised, He gave me the victory in that situation. I came back here the next year and she said, I got a word from you, and I wanted to run out the door. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. But God gave me a word, and if we're going to stand in a position of victory, we have to believe the word of God. Amen. Whether it's a written word, whether it's a word coming across the pulpit, whether it's a word that God speaks to us prophetically, however it is, but we have to believe the word of God. The way that we can come from a position of defeat, let me go through a couple things, is begin to talk down. And people I know, they say, well, I know what God says, but. And they try to explain away how God couldn't possibly answer their need when God has all the power to do so. Another way that we can work from a position of defeat is when we look at the circumstances. How many people that are going through some things, even though God has promised that He was going to deliver them, God promised that He was going to bring them through, and yet because of the circumstances, they get their eyes more on the circumstance than the Word of God. And they walk in defeat because they keep looking at the circumstances. Right. God promised He would heal them, and they come forward and ask for prayer, and they feel like God touched them in the altar, and God healed their bodies, and they walk out the door, and the devil kind of gives them a little bit of a whatever. There it is again. And they begin to look more at the circumstances, and they look at the Word of God. Hallelujah. And that's one of the ways we can walk in defeat. In other words, that we can walk in defeat, and I'm trying to hurry, is that by gossip or by griping and complaining. The children of Israel, one of the reasons why they had to go through that so many years in that because of their griping and complaining. A little story, a woman that I had met in Mexico, every time I talked to her, she was talking about how evil and how much of a heathen her husband was. You couldn't talk to her ever without her talking about how evil and how bad her husband was. And she kept praying. She said, I want God to touch my husband. And all the time she's talking about how bad he was. Finally one day, I think I had enough of that. And I said, why don't you try something different? I learned a long time ago, if we do the things the way we've always done things, we're always going to get the same results. Amen. And I said, why don't you try something different? Why don't you go home and make him his favorite meal? Why don't you start talking nice to him? Why don't you try to do something good for him and be at peace with him, and let's see what happens. She said, I'll try it, but I don't know, but I'll try it. She went home, made him his favorite meal. He thought some strange woman came into the house. And she started talking nice to him and started being good to him and started pampering him. And you know what? 3 months went by, and after 3 months, he came to give his heart to Jesus Christ. When she quit griping and complaining, God was able to move. Hallelujah. Another way we can win the victory is victory flows out of obedience. Children of Israel, they had specific instructions on what they had to do to win the victory. Now, God could have given the victory right off the bat. He could have just leveled the walls, and He could have done it any way He wanted to. He could have done anything He wanted to, but God decided to give them specific instructions on what they needed to do to win the victory. I believe if they would have done it any other way, they would have been defeated. But because they did it exactly how God told them to do it, they won the victory in an seemingly impossible situation, but victory flowed out of being obedient to God. I found out one thing: when I'm obedient to God and to His will and to His word, I can win the victory in every situation I go through. Amen. Hallelujah. And so victory flows out of obedience. And I'm going fast. Another thing that we need to understand is that we need to wait on God's timing. How many times do we get ahead of God and we want things or God to move when we want Him to move? And in that situation, I don't have time to go into it this morning, but on that piece of land that they were fighting for, trying to take that orphanage property away from us, if God would have moved when I thought He should have moved, when I wanted Him to move, it would have been disastrous. And at the time, I couldn't see it. Only later to look back today, and I can see why God took His time in resolving that situation. Sometimes we want God to move when we want Him to move, and it would have been a disaster. But if we wait on His timing and just have faith and confidence enough in Him, That know that He is in charge, that He is for us, He's not against us, and if we wait on His time, let me tell you here today, that we will win the victory in every case. If we wait on His timing. And I'm fishing up, I really am. Hallelujah. Another thing we need to stand from is that we need to be confident and quiet. God told the children of Israel, He said, march around 6 days. I want you to march around one time. I don't want you to say anything. I don't want you to do anything. All I want you to do is march. Now, in the natural, that seems kind of ridiculous. In the natural, that seems like, why would God ask me to do such a thing? They did exactly what God, they marched around there 6 times, didn't say a word. I imagine the people of Jericho standing up on the wall looking at them, and He was making fun of them. They said, look at what they're doing. What in the world do they think they're going to accomplish by doing that? But they were quiet, and they waited for God, and they did things exactly what God said, and they won the victory. Hallelujah. And the last thing, and this is the last point, it really is. Hallelujah. That we need to have faith enough in God that He's going to do what He said He's going to do.
Amen.
I believe it is in Hebrews, he said, he mentioned it in the book of Hebrews, he said that by faith the walls of Jericho came down. Yeah. Hallelujah. If we can just have faith enough in God, it doesn't matter what you're facing, it doesn't matter the difficulty, it doesn't matter the sickness, it doesn't matter the disease, it doesn't matter what you're facing here today. If you can just have faith enough in God to believe that He can do it, and He will do it, not just that He can, but He will do it for you, I can guarantee you today that you will win the victory in every situation in your life. Hallelujah. That's my message for you today. I thank you so much, and I love you.
Thank you.
And, you're welcome. I hope I didn't go over too much, but I just want you to know how much I love you. And thank you so much for your prayers and your support, and especially for the orphanage. And I say this many times. The Bible says that he who gives a cup of water to a prophet will reap a prophet's reward. And I believe that there's probably people here today that will never be able to step foot on Mexican soil, and maybe in some of the other countries that you are sowing into. And let me tell you here today, because of the sacrifices that you make here, that you'll receive, I believe, the same reward that we'll receive for being there. Because He said, they'll reap a prophet's reward. If you give it a cup of water to a prophet, and then that you'll receive. And so I believe that what you're doing here, that you'll reap the same rewards that we're reaping, because you are enabling us to do what we're doing in Mexico. I'm called of God. I know that I'm in God's perfect will, and I know that I'm doing exactly what God has told me to do. But I would not be able to be there and do any of what I'm doing if it wasn't for people back home like you that are praying and sponsoring and supporting and sacrificing and doing all that you're doing to make it possible. And so let me tell you, thank you so much. You don't know how much it means to me, all that you're doing in Mexico. And I know other places in the world. But I just want to say I love you and thank you so much. God bless you.